Hi, this is Tolec for the Andromeda Council. Today is Thursday, April 19th, 2018. Welcome back to this continuing, edgy, informative new series, Deep Disclosure and Evolving Reality. Today's fourth segment is titled, The Time is Now. As with my first three segments, my guests include two high-level insiders, M and MsM. So, in our third segment, we addressed the mid-March solar wave effects, the importance of the recent relocation of planet Earth to optimize the Golden Gate and its cause and effect on Venus, the removal of the reptilian Marduk, M's experiences on top of the Great Pyramid, light codes, the 7th seal activation tool, and the 7sealcodes.com website, certain specifics dealing with Chinese elders, and more. So, welcome to segment 4 with my high-level insider guests, M and MsM. Now, before we formally begin our segment 4 conversation with M and MsM, they've provided me, and therefore you, with the following topic highlights. They will address their unique insights on a version of the RV. With regard to crypto news, they will talk about the release of their own crypto coin and wallet. They are building a super multidimensional blockchain that will be transparent and unhackable to conduct transactions between parties for the exchange of goods and services, with the ultimate system allowing barter, time banks, commodity coins, and more. It seems there is a new legal tender crypto coin that has the potential to be a new reserve currency, and it's being discussed for the USA. They indicate they will be backing this and a few others with gold. Regarding the deep state, they will address the soon-to-be-launched military tribunals to remove the main Cabal members still present in the deep state, where the heads of media will be arrested or removed. They will address the continued global Cabal cleanup, addressing the thousands of worldwide arrests of Cabal members, near future changes, especially at the institutional level of global banks. They will provide some commentary on the alliance and a more full version of disclosure and the aspects of why. In the areas of esoteric, spiritual, and galactic insights, they will speak about the Silvergate, that which they define as the financial abundance alignment, the shutdown of the really bad AI, that the amount of advanced technology that has been impressing the awakening of humanity will finally be removed, and that the planet will be returned to the humans once the total elimination of reptilians happens, and more. So, welcome to segment 4. So MsM, welcome back. Here we are for segment 4. You said that you'd both like to dive in right away because we have some pretty serious topics we've got to address. M, I want you to pick it up from here. Go ahead.
Sure. Hey, great to be back. Very excited to share and keep the disclosure going deeper. A lot of you may have been hearing about some RV activity, and it is true. There are things going on with, as we said previously, if something happens, it's going to happen because we're involved with it. And basically, an inventory is being done, and they're looking for the very rare founders boxes. These are the first ones that we're going to take action on. Authenticating and counting.
So when you're saying product, can you speak specifically?
Sure.
What kind of?
Well, the types of currencies that people have been talking about are like DINAR and MsM and Dong.
Okay.
But what we're talking about are founders boxes. And those are the rare ones, the initial ones that have certificates and things that
medallions.
Yeah, right. That represent that they're the real authentic bigger quantity boxes, and those certificates tie them to gold reserves and oil reserves, and so there's extreme value in those. And of course, while we will be taking in other types of currencies, there's a lot of counterfeit out there, so that's going to be part of the process to validate and verify exactly what we have.
And weed out the counterfeit.
And it's going to take us a while to go through all that, so if anybody, as I've heard from a few people, are expecting to be paid in like a week or something, that's just not going to be the case. It may take upwards of a month. And we are not doing those payments directly. The people that have brought them in will be dispersing to whoever was on their list to amalgamate those items. But this is sort of the beginning of us preparing to do larger redemptions.
Okay. So this process to bring all these boxes in and have all of the currencies or bonds, whatever kind of paper is there, authenticated, and the medallions to be authenticated, how long do you think that process will take? At least the first step of the process.
Well, it's already underway.
Okay.
A lot of our content is being checked right now and warehoused.
I could probably
yes, please.
add to that. Hi, guys. Hello again. So just to reiterate some of what Em just said, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions about this. We are, in fact, beginning the RV process, and just as we said before, we are the ones that are making it happen. So we are the purchasers of this. Our intake process is a lot more stringent than the original collecting was on the intake for the people that are delivering these currencies to us. So the inspection and inventory process could take us up to 2 months. And so again, if you're hearing anybody paying out in the next week or two, or it's coming tomorrow, that is certainly not fact, because this process on our end is going to take 1 to 2 months just to complete the intake for the rare currencies that we're starting with. And also when it comes to disbursement on your end, we are not in charge of that part of the process. So the people that you turned your currencies into, if you're in this lot of currencies, which are the more rare currencies, then they'll be handling the disbursement from there.
Can you differentiate for me which ones are more rare than others? At least as far as you're concerned.
So the average person that, like the general public that has participated in the currency exchange, has turned in stuff like MsM and Dong and DINAR, and these are loose currencies.
Okay.
We're starting with what Em said is the founders boxes, and so.
Okay.
So these are the boxes, and they're intact and have a lot more, I don't know what you would say, authenticity in place.
Sure. And there's a lot in terms of value. There's greater value.
There's greater value, and there are also assets assigned to them. So
like the gold and the oil reserves and other. Okay.
One more thing to mention, a lot of people have, in private talks, have brought up, where's the money coming from? And so it's a combination of places. We represent some big buyers as well as our own funds that we've stated previously that are available. So, we don't have any problem with having the funds behind us from multiple sources to engage these activities.
Yeah, so we did say a redemption process would occur. It just would look a lot different than what had been reported up till now, and that is absolutely true. And also, the exchange rates are a lot different than what was reported on. And I don't have those exact figures, so I'm not going to give them now, but it's
somewhat lower.
Somewhat lower than what people believe.
And I'm sure that the people that are going to be doing the actual work will be advising any of the people who are about to do their exchange, the redemption, a few days ahead of time. The parameters, I'm sure the parameters will be laid out so that people can know what to expect.
Yeah.
Certainly not now, but at the appropriate point in
Well,
time.
one thing I want to mention too, we do have a new website up, deepdisclosure.com, and we're going to be doing more of the frequently asked questions for comments and remarks, and you'll be able to keep an eye on this site for any current news pertaining to any topics that we outline that are pertinent. So, we don't have to wait 2 or 3 weeks for the next show. We'll put things up there that will be invaluable to timing as necessary.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that you want to reveal about the global reset part in this RV?
I think that about covers it. It's significant that it's beginning, and
Good point.
we will talk a few more points as we go pertaining to the timing of things.
Sure.
As usual, we're limited as to what we can say publicly about the process, and that's just to protect it. And
In upcoming shows, we'll be able to reveal more about the progress. Many exciting things are happening, so we're really glad to be here and to continue to, give you the down low and the inside scoop.
All right. Well, M MsM, that was really good coverage regarding the global RV and the different aspects of it that you can address right now. I think a natural dovetail to this topic is digital currency, otherwise known as cryptocurrency. Who'd like to tackle this first?
I think I'll start with this topic, just because M has quite a bit to share on the topic, and I just want to set the stage a little bit. So while we're not individually answering questions this time, there were a lot of questions and concerns over the last 3 segments about the role that currency plays in our future, and how it looks and how it works and whether or not it's a good thing. And so it is our aim and our end game to have to phase out paper currency as we know it. But the reality is that there's a transitional period. We're not going to see money disappear overnight. It would actually just bring everything to a halt. Like, how would our society that's based on a monetary exchange work if that was all of a sudden eliminated?
It can't. May I ask a question relative to this topic?
Yeah.
There have been a number of people that have admonished the use of money in society and see it as a bad thing and that money should be eliminated. And then there were people talking about the one world government and the removal of paper money, also known as currency, as also being a bad thing. I'd like both you and M to address why cryptocurrency, otherwise known as digital currency, if you will, why that can be a good thing for people as we make this transition. Why will it be safer, more secure than paper money?
I would say that, money, just like technology, is simply a tool, and it's how you use it that makes it good or bad. So it's not necessarily the item. It's just a tool that allows for us to have a society, with trading and exchange that goes on. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. The wonderful thing about cryptocurrencies and those exchange platforms is the transparency that they bring. So, our banking system has become so corrupt that, and also so veiled that it's hard to see what exactly has gone wrong there and where all the money is going, which can't happen in a digital exchange. So there's far more transparency in that system, and it's also decentralized. which is part of the problem. Well, the main problem with our current monetary system is the centralized system that we're in. So, so those things make it a better system. And since I'm not the financial expert or the fintech expert, I think M can elaborate on some of this.
Good timing. Go ahead.
Sure. Let me highlight a couple things that M said. A lot of people don't realize there's over 100 hacks into banks on a daily basis. So, there are some real problems that need to be addressed. Additionally, a friend of mine had a white paper about a cashless society using a lot of these fintech solutions that he's implemented applications for, and that white paper was taken by Singapore and implemented. So they already have a cashless society, by the way. So, we certainly will see more of that as it's proven to work. And we're leading the way in a lot of talks and relationships, negotiating global solutions with a variety of top-notch cryptocurrency companies, collaborating with the ones that have foresight for the road ahead. We have a think tank that we're putting the brightest minds into that are enabling us to plan ahead. And one thing that we plan on doing is having our own wallet and our own coin that we put our gold behind. We're also talking about putting gold behind a few other coins and having a benchmark with our coin, but through a type of a universal exchange and our own wallet, people would be able to sign up. In fact, that's one reason you should get signed up and registered at our website. Deep disclosure is when we make these announcements, you can be on a short list to receive some free coin for beta testing. But we also plan to use this platform to do other disbursements. And the intent is there to give away some money for projects and watch how people spend that money. Because of the transparency, we can see what they do with it. And the ones that do well with it potentially can receive more, because we are looking for people that are going to be proficient and effective at utilizing money in the right ways. So it's exciting that these technologies are available to us. We're also in talks with one that has created a legal tender that already has some interest by the U.S. to be the reserve currency. So as these solutions become more viable, we could implement a total global reserve currency this way. And while there'll be many, many coins out there, because currently there's probably upwards of nearly 1,500, we'll set a strong benchmark that'll measure the validity based on reserve backing that will create a system that has value, so that while all the coins that are out there, only I think I want to say a small percent, maybe a dozen of them are representing that they're backed by something of value. So those ones on our system will also have a ranking, and a level of certification that will encourage everybody to adopt more of a real backing, so that you don't have so many phantom currencies and scams and the like that this new industry is experiencing right now.
So if I hear you correctly, what I hear you saying is that your new cryptocurrency that you're currently working on developing right now, using blockchain technology, will be backed by some considerable assets.
Absolutely.
Whether it's gold or oil or other.
And we're forming partnerships and in negotiations to form partnerships with some other top choices that we will back as well.
Okay.
And those determinations are being made by a couple of parameters. are they driven by money, or are they driven by, truly providing a solution?
Right. Altruism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to step sort of tangentially for just a moment. And for those people that are not technical and don't know banking, can you provide a brief explanation of why blockchain technology is better based on its decentralized nature, and also why blockchain technology is safer in terms of it being unhackable? Now, we all know that there are the global banks out there, the Deutsche Banks and the HSBCs and JP Morgans of the world that use old legacy software, and they're using different clearinghouses to transactionally approve or not approve the sending of money. I'm speaking loosely here. Those are old legacy systems. We have the Federal Reserve that's today responsible and has been responsible as issuing and distributing a benchmark U.S. dollar. That's got to go away. So to get back to my question, why is blockchain technology, in it being decentralized, better? And why will it be unhackable? Those are essentially the two questions.
Well, I can address that in a few ways. There's a couple of benefits to blockchain technology. First of all, decentralized means no one controls it. There's no middleman. It resides on servers around the world, so it can't be stopped in that regard. The level of encryption is very high, and getting higher every day.
Okay.
So the ability to try to hack or do collusion to steal or sway things is protected by the types of master ledgers that are set up and the confirmations that are necessary through the blockchain mining to get on the ledger, protect all of these elements that have been addressed as concerns for corruption. And so,
Okay.
There's a variety of things that are provided in a complete system that many of the top blockchains and companies already have, but there are others that are coming along that enable the ability for blockchains to communicate amongst themselves. That's the term multidimensional blockchain,
Okay.
as well as the ability to use a blockchain for anything. It doesn't have to just be financial. So really,
Right, for industries that are transactionally oriented, it's a smart methodology. Would it be appropriate to say then that, speaking non-technically, that blockchain technology, because of its decentralized nature, which means it's spread around the globe, that it has multiple layers of redundancy and multiple layers of safety protocols from a software perspective? Is that an appropriate way to say it?
Yeah, you could
firewalls,
say,
maybe?
You could say that, certainly. But a blockchain at its core is a pretty simple thing. It's just, whose money is it? Where did it come from? At what time did it leave? When did it arrive? Who was it going to? For the most part, it's not a lot of information. And so, frankly, as blockchain technology expands and carries even more information, it'll be even more useful throughout all these various industries.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to focus in on the why is it unhackable piece? Why is it far more difficult to hack blockchain foundational transactions than centralized legacy systems? Again, I'm trying to do it from a non-technology perspective so that people out there listening can go, oh, okay, kind of wrap their heads around it.
And again, there's a lot that can be said on the subject, but to hone in on what you're asking, it really has to do with that it's transparent, that anybody can go and see what's going on, so you know where all the money is going. You have the ability for protection in a variety of ways. There, as I indicated, there are higher levels of encryption coming, but encryption is essentially more in the sending and the ledger recording that everybody can see on an open ledger that's transparent. It has to occur that way. So all transactions can be determined about where they're going and where they're coming from. And so the protection is they're not going to be able to be hijacked in the process of being sent.
Each transaction digitally records to a ledger.
Indeed. So while this is kind of maybe the final frontier, it's a new frontier.
Yeah.
In terms of the financial final frontier, we're certainly excited, and many people are jumping on board because all these new technologies can be complementary, and as I indicated with the think tank and the road ahead, we have the ability to work together to eliminate the corruption, and it's already doing it in many ways. So all the new pieces that we add, all the new technology, all the new encryption ability is just a complement to what's already working. And so the fact that, there's no middleman involved in your transaction, and that it costs less and less. There are platforms that you can send money around and exchange in and out of coins for, even in large values, frankly, for less than $1. So it just answers the question in a variety of ways.
So the transactional cost is less maybe than a traditional credit card company as well?
Exactly.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
Like Western Union, it costs quite a bit to send, even $100. So this is addressing a solution for a global market across a variety of points.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Ms. M?
Well, just as we wrap up this topic, I just want to say that we firmly believe that we're all in this together, and we've had a lot of people contact us since the last segment aired when we provided contact information, and we've already integrated some of those people into our team in the appropriate places. The financial system is our priority right now because it makes everything else possible.
That's right.
So those are the people that are getting placed immediately. So if you have a piece that fits into this financial puzzle that you have been working on, and we invite you to join us and bring your piece to the table, and we'll integrate you into what we're doing.
Okay. And what's the best way for someone who has that kind of interest or drive to contact you?
Well, you can just use my email, which you would find by poking around on our website, but I'll just give it here. GermainTrust@gmail is the one I'm primarily using right now. So if you have something that would complement, and absolutely, this is a collaboration of global scale that, we are co-creating the solution. It's not just about us. It's about all of the best minds and methods coming to the table for a greater solution for the whole, and that's our heart. And so if you align with that, we especially want to work with you.
Great, thank you. So Ms. M and M, the two of you have done a great job addressing the details of crypto or digital currency and how it can be protected and safeguarded. Our next topic, you told me, is called the deep state and what currently is going on. Ms. M, you have some topics you want to touch on here within the context of this piece, so go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so what a common theme in comments, it seems, is, this question or like, I've heard this all before, when is all this stuff happening? And so it's important to note that things are happening every day. And we're going to tell you a little bit about that, the progress that's been made. But I also want to reiterate something that we talked about in the last segment, because I really don't think that you guys fully understood what we were saying. So we were talking about the negotiations going on with the Federal Reserve that we ended. Now, we have attempted many times to move money into this country, and every time it's been stolen. And so this time we attempted to negotiate with the Federal Reserve in order to utilize our own money and to not have it stolen. And what they were asking us for in return for not stealing our money was immunity for their crimes. Now, the people behind the Federal Reserve are the Council of 13, which is like the 13 Illuminati families.
Right, right.
So that means the crimes that we're discussing are in regards to pedophilia, Satanism, cannibalism, and the oppression of an entire planet.
Genocide.
Yeah.
And these are the things that they wanted immunity for. This is not something we were willing to grant. I don't know anybody out there that would be willing to offer this to them in exchange for some money in our pockets right now. So it was simply out of the question. And that is why we had to say no to that, and why we turned to other means to move money, which we're currently doing, which we won't speak about, but it's one of the reasons why things take as long as they do. Now, another aspect to this is, us in tandem with the Patriots and the agencies and the military have been taking down a corrupt organization that has weaved itself into every level of government, all the way down to the post office.
Right.
And that is not an easy task to do. So it takes as long as it takes to get it done. And nobody gave us permission to do this. In fact, we've been shut down at every turn and told we couldn't do this over and over and over again. Our whole society is built in a way to program us into believing that we are incapable of doing this. So no one gave us permission to change the world. And certainly they didn't give us the tools to do it either. So we just decided that enough is enough, and we're going to do something about it. And that means that each and every one of you has the ability to do that as well. If you would like to see this happen faster, take initiative, do your part, become an actionist. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the Galactics are saying about this, and then Em and I are going to share a little bit about what's going on currently.
Okay. Go ahead.
So the Galactics have promised that heads will roll. They've been talking about this for a long time. I had a conversation with them and Em this morning, and one of the things that they stressed was whatever we see going on in Washington is all a big show. And behind the scenes, the nooses are tightening around their necks every day. And so it's important to understand that the same 6 companies still control the media that have during this whole cabal rising. So they still have control of the media, which is something that we are addressing. The Galactics told us that first Hollywood would fall, then the media, and then Washington. And so, the crosshairs are on the media heads now, and it's an important piece for taking control of the narrative so that we can start to tell people the truth about what's really going on, so that they're not co-signing their own enslavement anymore.
And I take it that in the terms that have been used, the good folks, the white hats, the white knights that are either currently in 3-letter agencies or retired, these are the kinds of people that are initiating these actions to find these people, to bring them to justice. And you both mentioned something about coming military tribunals to deal with these people. Can you tell me more about that? Yeah,
we'll get into the military tribunals in just a moment. I want to talk a little bit about again, kind of reading between the lines of the media.
Okay.
Because when you see these headlines and you see these stories, it's really easy to become upset and to not fully understand what's happening. Now, let's use, for example, the border wall. What many of you may not be aware of is that the CIA has been trafficking humans and drugs across the border via gangs, specifically MS-13.
Right.
They've also been used as assassins for the Cabal.
And it's been a big Cabal money supply chain for years.
Exactly.
Years
so,
and years.
you know, when Trump so ineloquently says,
Right.
you know, things about who's coming across the border, he's not speaking about Mexicans in general. He's talking about this very specific group of people who are criminals, who are committing crimes against American people, and who are, you know, a leg of the deep state operation. So
Okay.
that's one thing. You know, when we look at the tensions in North Korea, what many don't know is that the heads of the North Korean state have been puppets, and that North Korea was a CIA dark hat stronghold, and they were controlling that country and using it for their own benefit. And that is why there's been tension between the United States and North Korea since Trump's inauguration, and why there have been we've been working to dissipate that tension and reunite North Korea with South Korea and remove the deep state from North Korea. So there are other elements to this as well, and this is going to be very controversial, what I'm about to say, but I'm not the only one saying this, so that's the good thing. You know, the current situation in Syria is not what it appears. So,
Surprise.
yeah.
Keep going.
Putin is very much a member of the alliance. He's a family member. And he's on the good side. And Russia has been working relentlessly to remove ISIS from Syria, which is an ISIS stronghold, and is a very important component to defeating ISIS. And so they've been there for a long time working on this, and heavily since Trump's inauguration. And so the situation that's happened there recently is not the initiation of a new war. It's not Trump turning coat, as maybe figures like Alex Jones might believe. It actually is it was a directed missile attack in response to the false flag chemical attack that happened there. And again, reading between the lines, if you closely examine the tweet that Trump directed at Putin, what it was more of a warning about the coming missile attack. And the proof of that is that the Russian forces retreated out of the way of the directed missile attack that occurred. So it was more of a one and done situation and not the beginning of a new war.
Right. Yeah, it's my understanding that it was very much a surgical strategic strike.
Yeah, and I think M can elaborate on that when it comes to war and the future of our planet.
Well, I can simply say that the Alliance has made a pledge that there will be no more war, and every effort is being taken to prevent that. So that's the good news. I think it's also important to understand what Ms. M's saying about reading between the lines, because there's a lot of negative publicity out there about Trump, and a lot of Trump haters.
Sure.
You know, the whole fake news thing that has been designed to discredit him or, you know, pit us against each other is more of that fear-mongering, you know, controlling the belief of the people. A lot of people are beginning to understand 9/11, you know, the truth of 9/11, and the whole fear agenda to control people. but coming back to the point, I think it's important to realize that a lot of the things that he did, like with the EPA shutting it down, well, that's because Monsanto was super woven into it. And you couldn't get rid of it by just firing a few people. You had to shut it down completely. So a lot of the things he's doing have deeper meaning. And once all the corruption is cleaned up, things can be reactivated that makes sense.
Yeah, and so also in addition to people asking, when is this going to happen? When are we going to see this? Things are happening every day that are setting up for a big public show. And one of the things that the Galactics communicated this morning was that we can expect to see more of this in the public by fall of this year. So the fall of 2018 also represents the fall of the deep state.
The fall of the Cabal.
Well, and let's talk about that. One of the topics that you guys wanted to address within the context of this greater global Cabal cleanup and there being a deeper disclosure. We were speaking briefly about how many arrests have happened so far, Cabal members. Can you add some detail to that?
So there's nearly 100,000 that have occurred globally over the last 36 months. And again, these things aren't making it into the news. There are also discussions behind the scenes about doing a more fuller public disclosure about the secret space program and all the advanced technologies that have been withheld, that we've been prevented from taken advantage of. So there's really a lot of interesting things going on. Part of the reason that a partial disclosure was being discussed is not just because people might freak out that there's extraterrestrial life forms, but it's also due to how heinous and nefarious acts of the Cabal have been.
Absolutely. And that leads into another aspect of this and the secret space program and just how much technology we have as humans that's not disclosed to the public. A number of the individuals that have been arrested in regards to pedophilia over the last few years have been moved off planet. They have been quarantined to a prison planet. And,
if they couldn't be rehabilitated.
Yeah.
Which is the first effort.
Yeah, which is also very difficult thing to do. And the reality is that pedophilia is a poison that just can spread generationally. And we need to eliminate it from our planet to protect our children in the future. So let's review some of this progress. We've talked about massive arrests that have occurred. Everyone knows about the sealed indictments. There's also been resignations coming from heads of agencies as well as CEOs of companies and people in Congress, which are related to those sealed indictments. It's important to look at the progress and recognize that this is happening already. So if you're waiting for the event, if you're waiting for everything to get started, wake up and see that it's already started, and it started a long time ago.
Right. And that this is, in fact, a period of transition, all of these things happening. Because actually, before a brand new system can be built anyway, all of this cleanup has to happen. It's got to complete itself, come to fruition. M?
Yeah, I think that when you do a review, the progress is pretty profound, considering what we've been through for several decades, asleep at the wheel, so to speak. And, the progress speaks volumes to Trump said he was going to drain the swamp. And he said many things on his campaign trail, if you go back and listen. And none of that was televised, of course, so you had to find it on YouTube. But the 1% controls the world, just so many remarkable things. The Clintons are corrupt. Our country has been, gutted, etc.
Co-opted.
And so,
and here, all these things are happening. They are in fact happening right now.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you really got to look at the facts and not, the news in terms of, oh, he said this, or Stormy said that.
Those are all distractions anyway.
Right. It's far more exciting to understand what's really going on and how much progress has been made, and that it's all hand in hand, that there's a master plan to fully eliminate the cabal so we can actually activate and launch a golden age. And so we're well within the plan to accomplish that.
You've both done a great job of addressing some of the, if you will, earthbound aspects and human involvement in what has been known as a reptilian-led cabal for years. And there's an extraterrestrial component of this that you said you'd like to address in a deeper aspect. So I'll let you talk about the extraterrestrial piece of that and where it's going.
Okay, one example to demonstrate that the web of control from outside sources are deeper than most people realize is somewhere around 2 years ago. One of our top partners was called by the eldest elder and basically instructed to call UBS and basically say, we have the keys to your spaceship. If you'd like to give us the list of the Cabal members, we'll release it to you because we understand that you want to get off the planet.
So I know what those letters mean. Are you talking about United Bank Switzerland?
Yep.
That UBS? Okay, keep going.
So a phone call was made to a top executive there, and the information was passed on to him. Yep, I understand. Okay. And basically, they didn't agree, in essence. They were not willing to forfeit that for the keys to leave.
Okay.
The name of the beings that wanted their keys back to their ship were Tarzaks. And they actually, their ship is down in Antarctica. And so it is, again, interesting to have the corroboration that things that Corey Good talks about, are coming
Sure.
up and out in a variety of ways. And so, yes, it's important to realize that the oppression of humanity has occurred from multiple directions. And so it's a good thing that we have galactics from above that have been assisting, because on our own, we may not be as far as we have gotten without their help now.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose I could add to that by sharing a little bit more of my knowledge about the AI system that's also located in Antarctica. And around the time that they were offered the keys to their ship, I was also told by the Galactics that their intention was to decommission the computer down there that runs our matrix system on the planet. And the purpose for decommissioning this 3 million year old computer was because the prime operative or prime directive of the computer was so deeply programmed into it, which is more programmed for like dominance and population control rather than the support and to support the flourishing and thriving of humanity, couldn't be reprogrammed after all this time. And so the best thing to do would be to simply decommission the computer. And there are other layers to this as well. A few years ago, Em and I were traveling through Arizona. This was before we moved here. And we were in a place called Apache Junction. I was standing like directly under Apache Leap, and I saw underground. I saw that they were a bunch of beings that I recognized as they looked like the Lumerians, like the beings that had first come to pick me up, because of their attire. They were all running around very quickly. They were calculating things, and they had like clipboards, and they were working on a rather large machine. And I didn't recognize the machine. I didn't know what it was. It looked like something out of the Wizard of Oz to me. And I didn't really quite understand what I was looking at until I think it was like a year ago. Corey Good started releasing drawings of the computer in Antarctica that looked just like the thing that I saw under us in Arizona. And so it was the eclipse last year. This computer had been completed. They had finished everything they needed to do with it, and they started to turn it on. Now this thing is rather large. There are parts of it that span all the way to where we are here in the Sedona area. So where the Lumerians now live under Thunder Mountain, where they moved a couple of years ago from their original base in underneath Shasta. So they're down here now and tending to this computer. Now this thing is more of a positive system, so it's basically the same kind of computer. It's just that it has a different program to it, and it has a more positive program going on. So this thing came on after the eclipse, and I started to feel the effects of it about a week later. I just felt like everything was going to be okay, and it felt really positive, and I felt happy. And then I started getting calls from people, and they were saying, you know what, I don't know what's going on, but I just know everything's going to be okay, and I feel good. Another side effect of this has been an increase in the amount of deja vu, and it's happening because two systems are running in tandem. And so it's not because we've lived this before. In fact, we've never made it this far on this ascension path. This is the farthest we've come to date. So it's because these two systems are running in tandem, and they're giving us this feeling of deja vu. And so
the galactics keep talking about unplugging that also, so the tandem won't happen for that much longer. I think that we were given some indication that when CERN imploded, that they had a helping hand in that too.
Yes, they had communicated with me earlier this year that they wanted to have the old system down before these major waves started hitting us. And the reason for that is that the waves amplify whatever it is that you're feeling. And so if the negative system is still running, it could increase the amount of chaos that we're feeling, and also diminish the level of consciousness that we gain from the waves hitting us.
I have a question. Were these people that you're talking about, were they responsible for that same computer deep underneath Antarctica? Were they responsible for that computer as well, or?
No, the Tarzaks that I think Corey Good refers to them as the pre-Adamites, are the ones that run the computer down there, or were running the computer down there, as far as I know.
Okay. And is that thing been shut down now?
I can't confirm that yet. I know that there have been operations to shut it down. There are a lot of malevolent ET bases in South America and Central America, and so there have been a lot of earthquakes down there that come from them blowing out these bases. So the Galactics were taking them out, and they had communicated with me that they were going to enter through one in the Atlantic Ocean, and this was off the coast of Ecuador, and there was also an earthquake out there
Right.
right after they entered through this tunnel to make their way down to Antarctica to shut this thing off. So I don't know if it's shut down completely yet. I do believe, because of the time frame of what they were giving me, and I believe that the CERN explosion had something to do with it. So this thing may have been communicating with the CERN computer or the CERN machine, and that's why they shut it down. But they did indicate that they had a hand in taking down the CERN machine, and I don't think it had anything to do with the Stargate, because we've had Stargate technology for a long time, so they wouldn't have needed to make a new Stargate to leave the planet.
So, M, you have some further thoughts about this?
Yeah, I'd like to interject that thoughts are frequency, and expanding consciousness are higher frequencies. So it's important to realize that the suppression that was being done with the negative computer that is going to be ultimately turned off has been holding back our spiritual growth and our conscious expansion in a variety of ways, honestly. When you got information and expand your consciousness and would reach a new level, you would basically light up on a radar screen with a level of light. You'd be a blip, and so you'd draw attention. So this AI system also has the capacity to know that your consciousness is expanding and then come at you with things that would suppress, upset, derail, cause you to be confused or whatever was necessary. So getting rid of that's going to be very valuable. Now, there are ways that information that we have does expand consciousness now, and I think that a lot of us are not being affected by it because we're waking up significantly. So while we don't have all the answers to how all these things work, we definitely know that the higher dimensional beings, the interdimensional beings, and extra dimensional beings are all assisting us in taking back our planet and waking up to higher aspects of our multidimensional self. So, I've certainly found, working with the information that I have in my book material and different things, when you engage those frequencies and whatnot, they expand your consciousness and perhaps put some protective measures around that you can evolve without being tampered with, because it's working. And so, we are succeeding, and we do have a lot of divine protection. So this is nothing to be, too overly concerned about. These things are happening, but the level of cleanup and acceleration for the positive outcome is well underway.
So, Miss M, I understand that you have some thoughts about the Golden Age activation and the Silvergate and its relevance to financial abundance. Why don't you go ahead and share with the people what's going on in those realms?
Yeah, everybody wants definitive dates for everything, and there really aren't any, but there are some planetary alignments and gates and things that are pretty definitive, and we're quickly approaching what M refers to as the Silver Gate, which will be on 522, and the Galactics have communicated with me that this particular gate marks the beginning of financial abundance, which is really exciting for everyone. And that will lead up into the Golden Gate, which I believe we've talked about before, which happens on 11/22, which is an amazing celebration after we see the fall of the Cabal. So, Em will tell you a little bit more about those and how he discovered them. So, go ahead.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Well, again, my body of material that I've been working on for over 20 years comes from a lot of past life recall, being involved in mystery schools, and just studying a lot of the esoteric stuff and recalling it from my own higher self. Really, and of course you can watch my videos to get a deeper understanding into these stories. You'll find that off of the Deep Disclosure under Contact Us, but really it's been drilled into me from a young age about these activation sequences and dates and timings that are built into the Egyptian calendar as a clock. Frankly, the whole Giza Plateau and its alignment to the constellation of Orion is essentially pointing to the Golden Gate. And that, again, is all expressed in a lot of visual format to help deliver it in a concise way. But in essence, these greater alignments to the photon beam and everything, as these gateways are open, there's higher frequencies that are coming in to awaken our consciousness.
Okay.
And the 522 gate, which actually has Orion sitting at the cusp, and across the way at the 1122 gate we have Ophiuchus, as I like to say. There's other pronunciations.
Ophiuchus.
Or Ophiuchus.
Sure.
As the gatekeeper of the Golden Gate, and these two gates sit on the Milky Way. So when the sun crosses this meridian, there's frequencies that are activated because of the ancient Egyptian. They called it the Sa energy, and the Sa energy that comes from the stars that gets communicated into the temples and all these things that were incorporated into the ancient teaching, like the Eucharist, which was passed on from Melchizedek to Abraham. There's a deep background story to all this stuff about how to raise consciousness that was taught in the mystery schools that have to do with these light codes. And
this has to do with planetary movement and these moments, if you will, as we speak, these moments in time of May the 22nd or 11 the 22nd. They're relevant and important because what happens?
More energy comes in at these times, just like at a solstice or an equinox.
Got it.
Different points on the calendar or the zodiac wheel produce stronger effects for a variety of reasons, not just because of alignment to the central sun, but just the way that everything, much like if you have a conjunction of a couple planets, the energies are amplified. So all these things are taken into effect.
So these are cosmic happenings.
Yeah, these triggers are intensified at these particular gateways. And it's interesting because the work that I'm doing has brought out a deeper understanding of these frequencies. One example might be a lot of people are learning about 432 megahertz versus
440.
Well, yeah, and so a lot of the musical instruments, because they haven't been coded over to this new, better frequency that's more harmonious, there's a belief that we were given a frequency that was off. And so the music that we would listen to didn't have as strong a positive effect as it could. It was more in discordant frequency and would cause, more frustration in the body. And so, but the understanding of these various frequency keys, 528 being another one, there's a whole list of them. I've discovered, and this is going to be in one of my next videos, that this information was encoded into our English language, which is very interesting back at the time of Sir Francis Bacon, who became Saint Germain, who was Shakespeare, and encoding knowledge and wisdom into the Shakespearean plays and all that. At that time, they refined the English language, because before that it was Middle English, it was Tudor English. Before it became modern English, they made some tweaks to it. They added a J to the alphabet, because actually before that, Jesus was spelt with an I and John was spelt with an I. Might have made it a little hard to pronounce, but so these changes enabled all this higher math and higher knowledge to be encoded into the English language. And so I've been decoding it and showing where the words that tell the story, like the words for summer, spring, and autumn, what they add up to. There's a meta-numerology, there's a deeper understanding that reveals all these frequencies and numbers that tell the greater story. And I also call it astrotheology to the next level, or a meta. Everything is meta. Meta science, meta numerology, meta sacred geometry, because it's next level. And so I'm fascinated about that, and I think a lot of our viewers might also be. And so that information is going to be in new videos. So, but we are waking up and learning how to use this higher science. This super science that enables us to accomplish more things, whether it's free energy, advanced healing. And we do have things, by the way, like many have heard of the MedBed, which was actually from Area 51 and reverse engineered and being used by our military. So these advanced technologies that have been with help from us are going to be coming out. But we now have more tools to understand how they work, with a deeper appreciation for all of these higher and finer frequencies and the meaning behind them.
Well, M MsM, this has been a fascinating discussion, and we touched on some highly compelling topics. MsM, how would you like to begin to address the wrap-up of segment 4?
Well, I'm going to just tell a little story, because we want to talk a little bit about ascension and your role in it. And so I'm going to tell a little story about an experience that I had. This happened a couple of years ago. It's when I was doing quite a bit of spiritual work and was having a lot of really profound experiences. And I was sitting on my couch one day, and my head kind of just like flew back, and I saw like every person, being I've ever been, all the way up to the top. And they kind of just like flashed before my eyes, and some of them paused for a little bit, and I watched them in a little bit more detail. And then I saw myself kind of like floating in stasis with all these tubes connected to me. And a voice came into my head, and it said, "That is you. And all of those are you. But right now, you're Miss M.
Yes.
So it's your job to take your seat at the table, and that's all you need to focus on." And so I got this lesson, and that night after I got the lesson, they took me to this place I had never been before. I went all the way up to this place, and it was dark, and there were stars all around me, and it was just kind of this rock floating in the sky. And there on the rock was a throne, and some like curtains, and there was this golden being sitting in the throne. This thing must have been like 30 feet tall.
Wow.
And when I say golden being, it's like this golden being of light, and its whole body was just light and like stardust.
Sure.
This golden light, and it didn't have a gender or even a face. It was just this light that was in like kind of a humanoid body form. And it was wearing like what would be robes, but the robes were its body. Like, and I like sat in the lap of this being. And so that's how I'm judging this thing must have been like 30 feet tall, because in my grown human form, sitting in the lap of this being, I was like a baby or a small child. It was kind of like those Madonna paintings, where if you look like really close, you can see that it's like a man and not a baby. Anyways, I suppose after having this lesson and understanding of where I was on my path, I was allowed to have this experience, and I sat in the lap of this being, and it was just like vibrating this pure unconditional love and security, and it kind of gave me the strength to keep going on my journey. And so, you know, we're all on this path of awakening, and we're all ascending into this higher consciousness, and we're all, you know, there is love for us, there is support for us, but we're on our own. It's up to us to walk down the path.
That's right.
Ourselves. And so, you know, I'm just a Mexican American who grew up in a family of 9 children in a double wide trailer, and no one gave me permission to save the world. But I didn't ask for it, and I wasn't going to be told that I couldn't. And so there's nothing that makes me any different than anyone else. We're all capable of doing anything that we set our mind to, and our thoughts create our reality. And so when I talk about things like how, you know, why it's important what we put in and on our body, there's a spiritual component as well. And that, you know, as we're attempting to reach this higher consciousness, we have to treat our bodies like our instruments, like our temples. And when you put things that are like synthetic chemicals or fragrances on your body, it's creating chaos. You know, M was talking about frequency of music. Well, our bodies are frequency too.
So the more pure we are, the easier our journey?
The easier it is. The more connected to source we are. The more we are connected into everything and everyone. And so those kind of synthetic things block us.
It's the same reasoning for getting out in nature. Spend more time in nature instead of inside computers, television, whatever else.
So there's a myriad of reasons for why it's important to treat our bodies well.
Sure. And
it also has to do with us all being God, which is Christ consciousness. You know, it's realizing that we are all an emanation of God. I think I love the way the Hindus did this, because they have like one God that has like 300 versions, because every aspect of that God is another emanation of God. And so it allows you to see which version of God you are, which I think was like showing me all the versions of myself that I've been throughout every, you know, dimension and every place in the multiverse, was showing me, you know, just how multidimensional we are, and how at the end of the day we're all connected to the same source. And so
that's a really great message.
Yeah. I just want to give people the permission to take their power back, and to join us in our efforts to liberate this planet, and to reconnect with source and live a better life.
Ms. M, that was wonderfully said. Thank you. So M, your final thoughts?
Thank you, and it's always an honor and pleasure to be here. It's so important to realize that our beliefs create our reality. What we think about actually happens, and now more than ever, and faster, especially as we pass through these gates that we've mentioned. So we really need to watch our thoughts and think about what we want to attain. The expansion of our consciousness and being free and being whatever we wish starts with realizing how much we've actually been controlled. While it may be uncomfortable to acknowledge that we have been oppressed, This is the first step to claiming our divine birthright and becoming our highest divine selves, fully embodied now. We have the power to manifest all the positive visions we can imagine. Once we understand what the real world facts are, we need to stop denying that those are the truths and stop supporting, no matter what, how small, the things that are disempowering or the things that don't match a high love frequency for all life.
So for M, MsM, and me, Tolec, thanks so much for joining us. Until next time.